Hi, it's Mitch from PickDawgz.com. Sunday, June the 9th, 2024. Here with your first half and first 5 innings picks for today. We've got, of course, the NBA Finals Game 2 first half, as well as 15 Major League Baseball games. Of course, we also have Today in History. Today in History, 1973. Secretariat wins the Belmont by 31 lengths. 2 minutes, 24 seconds. A record that still stands today. As they said over the announcer, a tremendous machine, and really, just one of the biggest, most iconic moments in all of sports. Ron Turcotte looking back over his shoulder, and there's nobody there. But anyways, of course, we look at the books bankroll, and there is nothing left. We are absolutely clobbering the books here at PickDawgz, and of course, on this video, let's get right into it with today's first half and first 5 innings. We head to Game 2 of the NBA Finals. It's the Boston Celtics hosting the Dallas Mavericks. It was all Celtics in Game 1, at least if you look at the first quarter and the first half. But really, when you look beyond that, the game was very, very close and very even. And to tell you, if even anything, Dallas really won the rest of the quarters in that game. They started off pretty fast. They let the Celtics, reel them in and really do a number on them. I think the Mavericks, who have had these bad quarters throughout the playoffs, usually have bounced back from these. I know that Jason Tatum, not his biggest effort of the playoffs. It was all Porzingis in Game 1. Jaylen Brown with 22 points in that one. Luka with 30 in that game. But I think this game, is going to be a lot closer at the half, and I think the Mavericks probably have a solid chance in this game. But I tell you what, I could see a tie game at the half, so I'll take the points with the Mavericks in the first half. That's gonna be my pick for Game 2 of the NBA Finals. We head to Major League Baseball, where we stay across the pond, where the Phillies are now the home team today against the New York Mets. Taijuan Walker getting the ball for the Phils, and it's Jose Quintana on the mound for the Mets. These London games always have very high totals, and it all comes from that first game when the Red Sox played the Yankees, and there was like 20 runs or something in that game, even though the total was like at 15. And I gotta say, we got another big total in this game, but we've got Jose Quintana with a 3 ERA over his last 3 starts. We've got Taijuan Walker over his last 5, and Taijuan Walker with a 5 ERA over his last starts. He's given up 12 runs in his last 3 games, and meanwhile, Quintana is good for 3 runs every time out. You got to remember, most pitchers these days only go 4 to 6 innings, so usually if you see these type of runs, it all happens early. The Mets are, certainly let the Phillies get away on Saturday, and I think you could also say the Phillies went out and took it. But the ball seemed to just fly over the fence. I like the over in the Phillies-Mets as Game 1 of today's card. For our next game, we head to Arlington, where the Rangers are hosting the Giants. Nate Eovaldi on the mound for the Rangers as they try and avoid the sweep. Keaton Winn on the mound for the Giants. Winn has been pretty terrible for the Giants, and of course Eovaldi, big game Nate, has been just what he is. But the thing is, he has been battling injuries all season long, a lot like this Rangers team, so he doesn't go very deep into games like we've seen him do in the past, especially in the postseason. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball. It's just that the Rangers have kind of stopped hitting the baseball this season. They're missing a lot of guys in this lineup, and even the guys that are healthy just haven't been 100%. And when we look at the last 10 games, these teams pretty even. But I think in this particular game, while I've been on the Giants this entire series, and it's paid dividends for us, I think in this game, Eovaldi's just got a better chance of holding the offense down. I don't think he's perfect, but I think he's good enough. I'm going to take the Rangers here as our pick in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we head to Pittsburgh, where the Pirates are taking on the Twins. Jared Jones gets the ball for the Pirates, while Bailey Ober on the mound for the Twins. We've seen Jones have some up and downs in his rookie year, but last time out, he was absolutely straight fire against the Dodgers. That was following up in a performance where he allowed 5 runs against the Tigers. He had been allowing about 3 runs, of course, in games prior to that as well. So he's been hit this season. But Bailey Ober, who really had a horrible start to the season, and then really hit a nice stretch, has been getting hit very hard as well. And of course, the Twins have been streaky good and streaky bad all season. They've had some of the longest winning and some of the longest losing streaks this year. We look at these teams versus right-handed pitching, and they both really about the same, with the Twins at 219 and the Pirates at 220. We look at the last 10 games, still fairly even, with the Twins at 228 and the Pirates at 212 versus right-handed pitching. And over the last 5, though, the Pirates have gotten the best of it, moving it up to 235. I think the Pirates get the best of this as well. We'll take them in the first 5 innings. For our next game, we head to Washington, where the Nationals are hosting the Braves. It's DJ Herz on the mound for the Nationals and Hurston Waldrep on the mound for the Braves. Waldrep, first-round draft choice in the 2023 draft, College World Series hero, as well as really one of the better players in college baseball. Meanwhile, Herz, made his first start filling in for Trevor Williams, lasted 4 innings, allowed 4 runs in that one. Waldrep has all the stuff, but it's his first major league start. Herz, well, didn't look all that impressive in his first outing. The way the Braves have been hitting the ball lately, it really hasn't been well at all, hitting just 204 over their last 10 games, while the Nationals are at 226. Break it down to the last 5, it gets even worse, to 161 for the Braves. I think the Braves do have an edge on the mound in this one as they continue to find a replacement for Schweider. Waldrep actually rates out higher than Schwellenbach, who passed him in the trip to the majors. But I think Waldrep delivers today. I'll take the Braves to salvage something and take the first 5 innings. For our next game, we head to Miami, where the Marlins are taking on the Cleveland Guardians. It's Trevor Rogers on the bump for the Marlins and Carlos Carrasco on the mound for the Guardians. The Guardians getting even in this series, really beating up on the Marlins on Saturday, but Carrasco's been getting beaten up on a regular basis, allowing 5 runs last time out, 2 prior to that, 3 prior to that, and 5 starts back, 8 runs against the Houston Astros. We look at Rogers. Well, he has never been the same since his rookie year, but it seems he's been good start, bad start. And last time it was a bad start, allowing 4 against the Texas Rangers. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, especially versus, the Marlins versus righties and the Guardians versus lefties. Overall, it really is very close, but if you look at it recently, the Guardians hitting just 204 versus lefties over their last 10 games, while the Marlins at 272 versus righties. In the last 5 games, it's even worse at 252 for the Marlins to 155 for the Guardians. Gotta say, the Marlins might have an edge early. I'll take them in the first 5 innings. For our next game, we head to Cincinnati, where the Reds are taking on the Cubs. It's been all Reds the last 2 weekends against the Chicago Cubs, with the Cubs getting just 1 win in the last 2 series. In this one, the Cubs sent Shota Imanaga to the mound to face off against Frankie Montas for the Reds. Imanaga, a little bit of luster off the shine after those 7 runs he allowed against the Milwaukee Brewers. And then last time out, he allowed 5 runs, but only 1 of those runs were earned. I don't know. It still seemed like the ball is getting onto the bat of the opponent. On the other side, Frankie Montas coming off a 1-hit 7-inning performance against the Colorado Rockies. He's been hit pretty good, but his numbers are actually getting better. And of course, the Reds, well, their numbers seem to be getting better as well. We look at the Reds versus lefties, hitting 234 on the season, while the Cubs hitting righties at 219. But over the last 10 games, it's the Reds hitting 297 versus lefties, the Cubs 213 versus righties. I think the Reds pound Imanaga and grab the first 5 innings of this one. For our next game, we head to Tampa, where the Rays are hosting the Orioles as they close out their series. Zach Littell on the mound for the Rays, while it's Grayson Rodriguez on the mound for the Orioles. These teams have played each other consecutive weekends, and last weekend in this similar spot, it was the Rays grabbing the win on Sunday in a game that was pretty tightly contested for most of the way, and the Orioles didn't take advantage of their opportunities. In fact, there's 28 hits in that game and just 7 runs scored. I think, when we look at this one, the way the Orioles have been hitting the baseball, they really have been leaving no doubt in these games, and Littell has been getting hit pretty reasonably, while Grayson Rodriguez, he's been feast or famine as he's been most of his young career. We look at the way the Orioles are hitting the baseball, and of course, leading in home runs and hitting 237 versus righties over the season, while the Rays at 226. Look, though, recently the Rays hitting just 206 versus right-handed pitching. I got to take the Orioles in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Comerica Park in Detroit, where the Tigers host the Milwaukee Brewers. Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers, and it's Bryce Wilson on the mound for the Brewers. Skubal has been nothing short of outstanding this season, checking in with an ERA below 2, and in his last 5 starts, really hasn't been touched up at all. He had one outing where he gave up 4 runs, but really that's the gist of the damage that he's given up. As for Wilson, I think that his numbers certainly were better than what we actually saw out on the field, and we're starting to see runs cross the plate against him. But I think in this particular game, while Skubal is certainly the better pitcher, the Brewers are the far better team. They're a first place team here, facing a Tigers team that really hasn't found their footing. We look at how these teams are hitting, and it's the Brewers hitting 255 to the Tigers 227 for the season. And you get down to the last 10 games, and the Tigers are hitting just 192 as a team. You go to the last 5 games, and it drops to 172. All the values on the Brewers, and I'll take them in the first 5. We go to Kansas City, where the Royals are hosting the Seattle Mariners. It's been all Royals so far in this series. And the thing is that prior to this series, it's been all Mariners when the Mariners have faced the Royals. We've got George Kirby on the mound for the Mariners and Cole Reagans on the mound for the Royals, 2 of the better young pitchers out there. Kirby, though, has not really met the expectations that we put on him, but at the same time, he's pitched well, but he's had some tough luck when he has pitched well, and then other than that, he's been blown up. When we look at, Reagans, pretty much has been just straight money all season long. I think, when we look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, that's been the difference in this series, is the Royals, versus right-handed pitching, 244 to 221 for the Mariners versus left-handed pitching. We look at the last 10 games, 257, 235. It has been a very close series, but the difference in it has been, I thought the difference in the series was going to be the Royals bullpen, imploding late, but really it's been the Royals hitting coming through late. I think the Royals get the best of the first 5 as well. For our next game, we head to Chicago, where the White Sox are hosting the Red Sox. The Red Sox have made a real mess of this series, and the White Sox are really playing some of the better baseball that we've seen. On Saturday, it was Nick Nastrini getting it done against Brian Bayo, and today it's Chris Flexen on the mound for the White Sox up against Zach Kelly for the Red Sox, which to me makes it look like it is a bullpen game, as Kelly is a reliever. So, we look at the way these teams are playing coming in, and the White Sox, hadn't really done much all season, but what we saw on yesterday's game was that the bullpen actually held it down, even though the Red Sox tried to rally in the 9th inning, and we've seen the White Sox actually blow a lot of games like that. The thing is that the White Sox have also come through with some hitting here, and that's what it really takes. But the Red Sox overall have all of the better numbers, but boy, they just looked absolutely lost on Saturday. I'm not so sure they find their footing here today. Flexing's been decent. It's up to the White Sox pen to hold it down, but for the first 5, we'll be good on the White Sox. For our next game, we head to St. Louis, where the Cardinals are hosting the Rockies. Ty Block on the mound here for the Rockies, and it looks like it's going to be a bullpen game for the Cardinals. I think in this particular series, what we saw yesterday was that basically, the Cardinals maybe just not ready to win right now. They certainly had their opportunities in that game, were unable to take advantage of it. In fact, they rallied to tie the game out of an early deficit, were unable to even hold that for even a half inning. So certainly the problems run deep, and Paul Goldschmidt continues to struggle in that lineup for the Cardinals. Boy, a change of scenery might do him some good. The thing is that overall the Cardinals in their last 10 games are hitting better than the Rockies, but it hasn't really looked that way in this series. The Cardinals still continue to hit better as far as average goes, but it just seems the timing isn't there. I don't know. The Cardinals just look really out of sync, and all the value in this series has been on the Rockies. I'm going to take the Rockies one more time for the first 5 innings. For our next game, we head to LA, where the Angels are taking on the Astros. It's Patrick Sandoval on the mound for the hometown Angels, while it is Justin Verlander on the mound for the Astros. For Verlander, it's been kind of feast or famine. He's known as a slow starter to the season, and that is the type of year he's having this year. He doesn't start slow every year, but this year having one of those Verlander type starts where he's been good at times, but other times just doesn't look right. Meanwhile, for the Angels, Sandoval has pitched well in spots, and in 3 of his last 4 starts, he's actually been pretty solid. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, though. It's the Astros overall for the season hitting lefties at 253, while the Angels hitting righties at 223. And we look at the last 10 games, and neither of these teams hitting at all, with the Astros at 194 versus lefties, but the Angels at a dreadful 146 versus righties. You're hitting 146 versus righties and you're facing Verlander. I don't like your chances. I'm going to take the Astros in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Oakland, where the A's are taking on the Blue Jays. Mitch Spence on the mound for the A's. Bowden Francis on the mound for the Blue Jays in what looks to be a bullpen game. Last time Spence was on the mound, I backed him at plus 140 odds against the Seattle Mariners, and he gave up 4 runs and lost the game. But, such is life. It was 4-3. It was actually a fairly close one. But Francis has been absolutely terrible for the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays bullpen, really nothing to write home about, especially in these road games. When you look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, it's just the A's 218 on the season, but the Blue Jays just at 230. And you look at recently, the Jays just at 222 and the A's at 202. I think, when you look at these, when I talk about these batting averages, and you have to look at the other side of the equation too. And that's why we talk about the pitchers as well in the first 5 innings. Of course, the pitchers do factor. I just think the A's are going to be good enough in the first 5, and I think Spence bounces back from that last performance. I'll take the A's in the first 5. For our next game, we go to San Diego, Petco Park, where the Padres are taking on the Diamondbacks. It's Mazur on the mound for the Padres, making his 2nd career start, while Scott Magoo on the mound for the D-backs, which pretty much signifies it's going to be a bullpen game, as we've seen him this year, but 16 times, but really he's never gone more than an inning. He checks in with a 6.35 ERA on the year. Meanwhile, Mazur was pretty solid last time out when we saw him in his first career start. He only allowed 2 hits and a run in that game against the Angels over 6 innings of work. We knew he was going to be a tough customer. In fact, I backed him pretty heavily in that game and ended up paying the prices. The Angels won that one in the end, but it certainly wasn't his doing. We look at the way the Padres are hitting the baseball, especially the last 2 days, absolutely crushing it. And the Diamondbacks, just haven't been able to keep pace. I think, the Padres bats continue to hit here through the D-backs bullpen. I think Missouri, we see another solid outing from him. I'm going to take the Padres in the first 5 of this game. For our last game on the card, we head to Yankee Stadium, where the Yankees are taking on the Dodgers in a battle of teams that have faced each other more in the World Series than any other 2 teams. It's Tyler Glasnow on the bump here for the Dodgers. It was Heel on the mound for the Yankees. Glasnow gave up just 1 run last time out, but it was 1 too many in a loss to the Pirates. He's pitched pretty solidly this season with a sub-3 ERA, but he's a career mid-4 type guy. Meanwhile, Heel has been absolutely outstanding and not getting a lot of credit here. The Yankees bats have been held in check in this series, and really it's been Teoscar Hernandez for the Dodgers that is really getting it done here. And as we mentioned in yesterday's video, the Dodgers actually have been out hitting the Yankees for the season. When we look at versus righties, the Yankees at 254 and the Dodgers at 243. Recently, it's very even, kind of inverted there, with the Dodgers over the last 10 hitting 243 versus righties and the Yankees at 235. But I think Heel is the way better pitcher. I'm going to take the Yankees in the first 5 of this one. And that wraps up today's first halves and first 5 inning picks. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow. It's a smaller Major League Baseball card, but we will still cover it. I believe it's 7 games. Of course, if you're looking for my best bets, the games I'm betting today, you can head on over to PickDawgz.com, click on the Premium Picks tab where you'll find my best bets and also best bets from the world's best handicappers. Use the discount code PICK to take 15% off. If you're looking for cool PickDawgz gear like the stuff that I'm wearing here, this Nike Dry Fit hoodie, the hat I'm wearing, plus plenty of other stuff. Check that all out as well over at PickDawgz.com under the merch tab. I've got links in the description for both of those, for the premium picks as well as for the merch. And of course, we've got tons of free pick videos on the world's most watched sports betting YouTube channel, PickDawgz. This is Mitch. Thanks for joining me once again, and we will see you tomorrow.